robogjunk tovább, hiszen a következő előadónkról elég lenne talán csak annyit elmondani, hogy 4 csodálatos gyermek apukája. Éppen ebből már könnyen lehet következtetni arra, hogy miért dühíti az az egész őrület, ami a gyermekeinket is meg akarja fertőzni.
Nem csak édesapa, hanem a magyar jobboldali közösség egyik legaktívabb közösségformálója, az Alapjogokért Központ megalkotója, kitalálója, stratégiai igazgatója, emellett pedig a hazai online politikai harcosok legnagyobb és legsikeresebb csapatának, a Megafonnak, amit tegnap már bemutattunk önöknek, az alapítója és a vezetője.
És ha már a Megafonról esett néhány szó, akkor azért, hogyha megengeded, Stefi, egyrészt, hogy a Megafonhoz öltöztél, ezt szeretném itt mindenki előtt megdicsérni, illetve mindenkinek, akinek van szabad ideje, energiája, kedve, ismét látogassa meg nyugodtan a Megafon standját, illetve a többi kiállító standját is, hiszen izgalmas és érdekes dolgokat tudhatnak meg róluk. Na de, kérem, fogadják hatalmas tapssal a CPAC Hungary színpadán Kovács Istvánt.
Köszönöm szépen, szeretettel köszöntök mindenkit a harmadik CPAC Hungary-n. Most már ez egy ilyen hagyomány, és az az igazság, hogy az első 2 CPAC Hungary-re volt egy nagyon jó beszédem a nyugati civilizáció válságáról, milyen szerepet játszik ebben a woke, milyen szerepet játszik a gender ideológia, és most is van egy hasonlóan jó beszédem, amit nem fogok elmondani, mert ma reggel betoppant a családom, és úgy döntöttem, hogy inkább róluk beszélek. A Daniék már említették, hogy 4 gyerekem van, de azt nem mondták, hogy hát mint sok férfi társam, én is úgy nőttem fel, hogy mindig szerettem volna egy fiút. Aztán ez elmúlt abban a pillanatban, amikor megszületett az első és legnagyobb lányom, Izabella, aki itt ül az első sorban, és emlékszem, amikor először a kezembe fogtam, akkor azt mondtam, köszönöm Istenem, jó lesz, hogyha innentől mindegyik lány lesz. Úgyhogy amikor megszületett Enikő, aki szintén itt ül, egy csodálatos gyerek, akkor mondtam, hát köszönöm Isten, tudtam, hogy lány lesz, megbeszéltük, és amikor a feleségem bejelentette a harmadikat, meg 4-et, akkor mondtam neki, hogy hát ugye tudod, hogy lányok lesznek, én már megbeszéltem az Úrral. Így is lett. De azért beszélek most róluk, mert a gyerekek okosak. Sokkal okosabbak, mint sok felnőtt. Hiszen, hogyha én megkérdezem a 2 nagylányomat, hogy fiúkon meg lányokon kívül létezik-e bármi más, akkor kétkedve fognak rám nézni, lehet, hogy azt mondják, hogy hát vannak még az óriások, meg a boszorkányok, de hogyha komolyra fordítjuk a szót, akkor biztosan elmondják, hogy nincsenek csak fiúk meg lányok. És hogyha valaki kislánynak születik, akkor egész életében kislány marad. Viszont sok felnőtt nem így gondolja. Sajnos a nyugati világban felütötte a fejét a gender ideológia, amely azt tanítja, azt vallja, abban hisz, hogy végtelen számú nem létezik. És van egy matematikai fogalom, még az általános iskolában emlékszem rá, azt mondtuk, hogy triviális, valamire, amit nem kell bizonyítani, elfogadjuk ellenkező bizonyításig igaznak. És azt hiszem, hogy az emberiség történetében ilyen volt az, hogy férfi meg nő van. Az emberiség hajnala óta mindenki pontosan tudta, hogy valaki vagy férfi, vagy nő. Tehát nyugodtan mondhatjuk, hogy ez az egyik ilyen nagy triviális igazsága az emberiségnek, amit, hogyha valaki meg akar cáfolni, akkor bizonyítania kellene az ellenkezőjét. Csak hogy nem lehet természetesen bizonyítani, sőt a tudomány éppen az ellenkezőjét bizonyítja, a tudomány értelmében is valaki vagy férfi, vagy nő. És amikor ezen gondolkoztam, akkor jöttem rá, hogy az egész gender ideológia inkább csak az emberek fejében létezik. Olyan ez, mint egy vallás. Viszont, hogyha olyan, mint egy vallás, és mi azt mondjuk magukról, hogy szabadságszerető emberek vagyunk, tiszteljük a demokráciát, aminek természetesen része a vallás szabadság is, akkor mi dolgunk van nekünk a gender ideológiával? A gender hívők miért ne hihetnének szabadon abban, amiben akarnak? És mégis azt kell, hogy mondjam, hogy még itt Magyarországon sem, ahol egyébként a demokrácia alapelvei, alapértékei maradéktalanul érvényesülnek, itt sem hagyhatjuk hogy teret nyeljen a gender ideológia. És ezért nagyon jó az, hogy Magyarországon van gyermekvédelmi törvény, mert van egy vörös vonal, és ezek a gyermekeink. És amikor azt látjuk, hogy az iskolákban, sőt már óvodákban is megjelenik, felüti a fejét ez a mérgező ideológia vagy vallás, akkor kell megállt parancsolni neki. És hála Istennek ma olyan emberekkel oszthatom meg a színpadot, akik a mindennapban is sokat tesznek ezért a harcért. És most átváltok angolra, because now I have the privilege to call on stage Miss Kimberly Fletcher, who is the head of Moms for America, one of the largest organizations of moms in America, and also my very good friend, Mr. Jerzy Kwasniewski, the head of Ordo Juris. Please join me on stage. Big applause. Please, Kimberly.
Kérlek, foglaljátok el a helyeteket.
So I know most of you speak Hungarian fluently. Jerzy, you are a regular here, but let me summarize what did I say, because, you know, in the audience there are some who might not speak Hungarian. So I just drew a parallel between a religion and the gender ideology, emphasizing that it's something only existing in the minds of some individuals. And I would be really curious about how this religion, ideology, whatever, influence your region. So first of all, Kimberly, what's happening in the US right now around gender? What's the situation in the schools and universities?
Well, the situation in the United States is actually pretty tragic right now. They are launching psychological warfare against our children to confuse them of who they are and take away their identity. We are having a national identity crisis. So right now what's happening in our education system, it's actually been happening for several years, but in 2020, children were sent home to be taught at home, and so parents were able to see firsthand what was actually being taught in the classroom. And I have to say that I've been warning them for 20 years, but they just looked at me like a helicopter parent with a tinfoil hat. Because who would believe that what's happening in the schools and our education system is actually happening, that they would purposely harm children. So what's happening is the teachers' unions have control of the education system. They are bullying the teachers. The teachers are afraid to say anything because they'll lose their jobs or their pensions or opportunities. The school board members who oversee the school district are intimidated and bullied by the teachers' unions, and associations are constantly telling them, this is how you be a good little school board member. And you don't rock the boat and do whatever the superintendent tells you. And so there's a major hierarchy that's been created, and this gender ideology is being thrust on our school system as young as kindergarten. And they are teaching children to completely separate from their parents. They are telling them to question their identity. They have a flyer that they started sending out about 15 years ago, a gender-bred person, and it was put together by a man named called himself metrosexual. You can't make that up. And it was how you feel, who you love, and the genitals you were born with. And then it has all this explanations of how the gender identity thing works. And they call it a classical way to teach children about gender ideology. And then all of the school books are full of graphic sexual content and gender confusion. And they have the federal government under the Biden administration has now been giving money to the school districts to encourage the school districts to hire counselors to transition children. And the goal is to do it within 2 weeks. Planned Parenthood is heralding that they can transition kids in one session. And how do they do that? They do it by asking a simple question. Are you comfortable in your body? Who, between the ages of 11 and 14, are comfortable in their body? So then you start saying, well, no, I really don't feel comfortable. And then they say, well, maybe you're in the wrong body. This is how it starts. And if they can take their identity away, then they can fill it with any lie that they want to put in their hearts and minds.
these sound really dangerous. And we used to think that here in Europe, this madness is maybe active on a lower level, but I know that, Jerzy, you are active on the international level as well, in the UN, and you are fighting these fights for so long. But am I right in saying that ever since the new standards of rule of law has been implemented in Poland, the danger is being more active in Poland as well?
Oh yes, and your remarks comparing the gender ideology to a religion are very much in point. What we experience now on the international level, especially in the United Nations, is that this new religion and its precepts, its new commandments are coined in the halls of the United Nations in New York. And even 2 years ago, in September 2022, we had a conference in New York held in the building of the United Nations called Gender Transformative Education Conference. And the idea was that we need to provide on a global level gender transformative education, preaching to our children that they are fluent in their gender identities from the moment they are born. And it is promoted not only by the United Nations, but mostly by the World Health Organization, WHO. And the WHO promotes its so-called sexual education standards. And we have our own European edition of the WHO sexual education standards that are proposed as a standard solution for sexual education all over the world. I remember a few years ago, a director of our Center for International Law visited one of the WHO summits, and she heard one of the experts of WHO saying that a kid, a person being born, is a sexual entity from the moment he or she is born. And she asked, how come it's possible that a newborn child is a sexual entity? And he explained, it's pretty obvious. The first sexual contact of a person is when he or she is placed on the breast of his or her mother. So it is the level of depravation of the experts of the United Nations, of the experts of the World Health Organization, that are presented then to our countries and to our governments as the ones responsible for setting up curricula of our education. And for 8 years in Poland, we were successful in stopping this tide of gender ideology coming into our schools. We have the so-called preparation for family in our schools. It is presented as sexual education, but in fact it is a very good conservative approach. It is about relationship. It is about responsibility for each other. It is about bringing up children. It is about sexual abstinence when you are a child. And then, just in December, a new liberal government of Donald Tusk was sworn in, and in just 1 quarter, 3 months, they already introduced a new curricula on sexual education, a very vulgar approach, imported from Germany, imported from other Western countries, under the health education title. And it could be obligatory for each and every kid in Poland. So you may just imagine the level of opposition, of the popular opposition of the people, of parents in Poland, who are now absolutely shocked by the approach of the new government. Many of them, good Catholics, voted for Donald Tusk, and they never expected to be shocked with a sexual education, with deprivation of their children.
You know, what you said was so awful that involuntarily my hands were clenched in a fist of rage. So I really want to fight back. And you know, we agreed that this is like a fake religion, and this is not new in the course of human history. We had, you know, the Nazis and the communist ideology. I think they were very similar in meaning that they really intended to replace the Judeo-Christian values, heritage and religion of the Western society, but we defeated them. So I think we can defeat woke, we can defeat gender ideology, and I know you are really active on this field as well. So if you can expand a little bit, maybe first, Kimberly, how to fight back? What is your organization doing on this field? And, what advice would you give to Hungarian people?
Well, I think every country needs to recognize that this is coming. It's already there. It's not about if, it's when our children will be exposed to this, because there are entities who are making sure that they are. This is a Marxist takeover, and they are using our children to do it. That's the first thing we need to know. This is Marxism. This is communism. They are taking away the identity of our children. In our country, they are teaching our children to hate their country, hate their neighbors, hate themselves, and disconnect from their parents. So the solution is to do the exact opposite. We need to be at least as much of an influence in our children's lives as the world is. If we are not talking to our children about sex, someone else is. If we're not talking to them about gender, someone else is. We need to help them know their identity, know that they are loved, and every single day tell our children, we are on the same team. If there is ever anything that makes you feel uncomfortable or dark, come and talk to me, and we'll work it out together, because we're on the same team and nobody loves you like mom and dad. They need to hear this over and over and over again, because they're hearing the exact opposite in the world. Some of the things that we're doing in our country, we're working legislatively, so we're changing laws. The FCC, Federal Communications Commission, has already created a standard to protect children from obscenities, and it has a rating, rated R, that kind of thing. And there are things that you cannot show on TV or air on the radio because children may be listening. And so the books that they are reading in the schools that they are providing for our children could not be shown on TV, could not be aired on the radio. So it's absurd that they're allowed in the classroom. And it's, what you said about they call it curriculum and then suddenly it's okay. No, it's not. And one of the things that's a problem in America is there's this hidden, this agenda understanding that when you cross the threshold of the school, we now have control of your children. And we'll take care of it from there. You pick them up at the end of the day, but you're not allowed to come in and ask questions. So parental guidance stops at that door. So when parents started to realize what their children were being exposed to, they're like, no. We want to be in there. We want to see what our children are being exposed to and institute that parental guidance that the FCC has already established. So we started passing legislation in several different states called the FCC Standard Bill. If you can't show it on TV, you can't air it on the radio, you can't have it in the classroom. So that's one powerful thing you can do is through legislatively. Another way is working with your national government. There is legislation that's been introduced in Congress to protect children from child mutilation, and we have supported that. We also had a bill in states that we were able to get passed in the same level. You have to be 18 years old in Texas now to have drugs or surgery for gender transitioning. Another problem that we have in the United States is they weaponize the government against the people, against parents. So they're making laws in states like California, New York, Illinois, where they can take your children away if you are not affirming them. They can emancipate your children as young as 12 years old. So if a 12-year-old has been confused because they've been asked, do you feel comfortable in your body, and they now decide, oh, I'm not a boy, I'm a girl, and they come home and their parents don't affirm their new gender, Child Protective Services can come and take your children away. That is what we're facing. So we now have a team of lawyers that we work with largely on pro bono, no cost to the parent. So we have parents who are calling us while Child Protective Services is on their front door wanting to come and investigate them in their home, and we're able to connect them with attorneys right then to protect them. So these are the kind of things that we're doing. Also, electorally, we are turning over school board members in elections, and we're going in and training school board members to help them realize what their responsibilities and rights actually are so that they can be better school board members in protecting our children.
Well said. Jerzy,
So we conservatives are the populists, aren't we? So the people are with us and we are with the people. And it is the only reply we should have. We should mobilize the people against the gender ideologues in our schools. Because if the people are aware of what is happening, if they are aware of what is served to our children in the schools, to our grandchildren in the schools, they will react. And they will react with a massive force. And that's what we are doing now in Poland. We are combining the efforts of all parental rights movements in one Protect the Schools movement that is just signed today. The agreement was signed just today in the morning in Warsaw, in order to provide for a single front, a battlefront for all parents, good teachers, good teacher unions. We have some good Catholic teacher unions in Poland, in order to provide protection not only to public schools, because 80–90% of Polish pupils, students go to the public schools, but also to all the Catholic schools in Poland, which are also under the threat of implementing this obligatory curricula proposed by the Donald Tusk government. So we need to provide not only with a program assistance to the parental rights movement, we also need to provide them with a legal assistance, what you are doing in the United States. And it is the mission of Ordo Iuris for years now. We are providing legal assistance to parents and to families which are threatened, who are threatened by child protection services across Europe. We have numerous cases in Norway with Barnevernet system, in Germany with Jugendamt system, with CPS in United Kingdom as well, and the same systems were to be implemented in Poland in 2010–2012 by the Liberals, by the Donald Tusk previous government. We stopped that in 2015. It was one of the major points on the table of the conservative agenda when we came to power 9 years ago, and now they want to do it again. They want to implement the child protection services in Poland, and the only aim to provide CPS services in this very violent way is to take the power of the parents from them and grant them only with the parental responsibility. So they will reply to the government and they can be evaluated by the government, and there is no more autonomy of the family in the state. The government is responsible for the children, and parents are only the guardians who implement the centrally coordinated curricula for families. And this approach is already known in a Barnevernet system in Norway, it is already known in Sweden to some extent, in Germany, and by the European Court of Human Rights. It was already declared for 30 or 40 times to be a violation of the European Convention of the Human Rights, even though they do continue to implement this very aggressive approach to families. And one of the many aspects of the CPS system in violation of the family rights is a sexual education and a gender education that is being served now also in Poland. And what we need to do, we need to move this giant of the public opinion, this giant of the popular opinion against the governments who want to implement it and who want to take our children from the families.
I think we need to emphasize the fact that this is coming from the United Nations, and they are pushing it on all of the countries. No country is going to be protected from this unless we stand up and protect the sovereignty of our countries.
They want this religion to be global, yes, and we need to be Christian.
So unfortunately, we ran out of time, but I forgot to manage that Jerzy is the father of 6, while Kimberly is the mother of 8. So I rarely have the privilege to share the stage with people having significantly more children than myself. So it was an honor to me. And, you know, after all, we are all parents. And I know I would do literally everything to defend my children. And I'm pretty sure you would do the same. So with such allies, we will win, I'm pretty sure. And not if, but when Donald J. Trump will re-enter his office, I am pretty sure he will step up against this gender madness. I am pretty sure that once the European elections is over, Viktor Orbán will continue this fight. So I guess we're on a right track. If we will continue, we will win. So thank you very much for joining me on stage today.
Thank you.